How does someone do just that if they have to feed a family, or how do they create a life worth living, with meaning and purpose? Someone who doesn't have money, maybe doesn't have connections, and they're just starting out, or they're in a midlife crisis.
That's a great question, and I think the key to it is really drilling down on their values. So what's important is an idea in neuro-linguistic programming about value elicitation, and what it basically is, like, what's important to you about work? What's important to you about a relationship? And those answers are basically defining which emotions are the most important. So if I said, Lisa, what's important about your work, what would you say?
Shifting lives.
So make shifting lives. And that's specifically your word, is shifting lives. Making a difference. What else would be important?
Watching someone grow and creating a legacy that they never dreamed of before.
Yeah, so to summarize, and I would use your words
Yes.
back with if I was working with you in counseling, making a difference. So money wasn't in there. You're not doing this for the money.
No.
You're not doing this for the fame. And I know that you turned down a big TV show recently. And so you're actually on path with your values. So whoever's watching, that's what you got to ask, is what is your values? Because your values are very different than mine. And if you can figure out what your values are, it's very easy to say yes and no to opportunities.
But what about fear? A lot of people have fear. I'm going on this trip for a year, and people are saying, how could you leave right now? You've got this going on and that going on. Aren't you afraid it's all going to go away? Or what if, you're self-sabotaging? It's fear, fear, fear driven. I can't even leave for 2 weeks because I'm afraid this is going to happen or that. So how do you deal with fear? Because you must have fear in your life too when you say, I'm going to not do the secure job, but I'm going to do this. And
I have fear, and I think one of the greatest definitions of courage and bravery is people say, well, of course I was scared, but I did it anyway. Yeah, courage is not a lack of fear. It's the ability to recognize it and do it anyway. For example, you were there in Costa Rica. I don't know if you remember this, but we'd just done this great adventure of zipping through the trees, and one of the women in our audience almost drowned.
yes,
Do you recall this?
I was there. Yes.
She literally was out drowning.
Yes.
And I'm not a great swimmer. I'm an okay swimmer. But in that moment, I actually accessed a hero part of me that I really didn't know existed. I looked around, and there was no one around to help but me. And I had been told, don't go to that part of the ocean because it's dangerous. So I knew it was dangerous. I knew that I might die. And I knew that if it wasn't going to happen, it had to be me. So I just went. And I went and I saved her life, and we dragged her back on shore, and it was really dramatic, and it was emotional for me and her. But in that moment, it's just to make a decision of feel the fear and do it anyway. And so even at the smallest things, if I have fear in my life, I go, wow, that's fear. I recognize it, and I say, I'm going to do it anyway. From the smallest things. I've been.
And I think it's about 3-foot tosses, right? You don't have to say, "Oh my God, I need to write that book." You'll never get it done. It's like, let me break it down.
Well, I think that the experience of knowing that you're afraid of something and doing it anyway is small steps. For example, if you're single and you see a beautiful woman or a very attractive man, and you have a fear of rejection, which I still do and have my life. I have very little now, but I'll go, "Oh my God, I want to sit in my chair," and okay, I do it. So I make myself overcome that fear in the little places, and then in the bigger places it becomes easier, like pitching TV shows or to walking up to celebrities. The things that are hard, but you got to get the little ones. So if you feel like, oh my God, I'm nervous to leave the house, leave the house. If you're nervous talking to strangers, talk to strangers. So for me, it's not that I live without fear, and I don't really have a fear of failure. I think because I've failed so much, I always get back on my feet.